So I was having a family night the other day and we all decided to watch Back to the Future. And then we watched the second one. And no, we didn't watch this one because this one kind of sucks. But anywho, we watched the first two and the first movie got me thinking real hard about this scene in particular. If Marty wasn't there, would this situation have been avoided entirely? Maybe it wouldn't have. Is it possible that Lorraine actually got raped in the original timeline of Back to the Future? Let's get started. So a very dark theory, yes, I know, but this one really starts making sense when you look at the mom's character. Now, for those who haven't seen Back to the Future, I'll give you guys a quick summary of the movie. The movie follows Marty McFly, whose family is middle classish. His parents' relationship is very unhealthy as the mom drinks heavily and the dad lets pretty much everybody walk all over him, and he's too beta to even give his own wife attention. His brothers and sisters aren't doing much with their life, and Marty's life is just kinda meh. However, he is friends with Doc Brown, this guy right here, and Doc frequently has Marty test out experiments with him. One late night, Doc calls Marty out to this small parking lot to show him his greatest creation yet, time travel. Doc explains that time travel is only possible when you have plutonium and the flux capacitor. However, Doc fails to explain that he stole this plutonium from terrorists, and later that night, the terrorists try and come back and they actually kill Doc right in front of Marty's eyes. This causes Marty to time travel back in time to 1955, and this is where he meets a young Lorraine and a young George McFly, who are his parents. He tries to get them together after accidentally meddling with the way that they ended up meeting in the first place. He sees George about to get hit by Lorraine's dad's car and fails to realize that this is how his parents actually met in the first timeline. And because Marty got hit by the car instead, it actually ruins his own timeline and Marty must get his parents back together before he disappears forever. The big problem here though is that Marty's mom becomes infatuated with him and begins to develop a crush on him. This happens in part due to Marty's confrontation with Biff, the movie's main antagonist, which makes Lorraine fall for Marty even harder. Marty realizes it's best to figure out how he can get back to his own timeline before even trying to meddle anymore in his parents' relationship. This causes him to track down Doc's younger self and convinces him that he is in fact from the future. Doc explains how he recently discovered time travel but has yet to create a device capable of it. Doc, knowing how time travel works, explains that in order to get him back to his own timeline, they need to somehow generate 1.21 gigawatts of electricity, which they conveniently obtain through a lightning storm that Marty knows is going to happen because of a flyer from the beginning of the movie. Doc devises a plan as Marty tries to fix his parents' issues before the lightning storm hits. Lorraine asks Marty to the school dance, which prompts Marty to tell George that he has a plan. His plan is that he's going to make inappropriate advances towards Lorraine and that he wants George to step in and rescue her. However, like most plans in movies, it doesn't go as expected when George finds Biff in the car instead of Marty. However, an enraged and confident George knocks Biff out cold. This wins Lorraine's heart over and they kiss, saving Marty from disappearing. Marty returns to the clock tower, gives Doc a letter about how he dies in the future, the lightning hits, he's transported back to 1985, and everything is different. Doc doesn't die because he had Marty's letter and prepared for his own death. His mother is happy as can be and his dad is as confident as ever. A happy ending for sure. Now onto the theory. I mentioned earlier that Biff attempts to rape Lorraine. I say attempting because we all know that George, having the courage to believe in himself, stands up to Biff and knocks him out cold. Also, before we move on, I also just wanted to, say this. Just like take a step back from the video. I feel like no one talks about this, but the only reason George was able to stand up to Biff was because he drank spiked punch. It's like a very small little neat detail that the writers put in, but these guys spiked the punch and George drinks a big glass full of it before going outside. This is just a little like nod to how he's different in this moment, and I feel like no one really talks about this. Anyways, George stands up to Biff and knocks him out cold. Now this event right here drastically alters the timeline. Remember, in the original timeline, George never had the courage to do anything, and it's this one action right here that completely just derails and changes his character for the better. We see that this is in fact true because at the end of the movie, George is brave and decisive as ever. He even wrote his own book and tells Marty that he can do whatever he wants as long as he puts his mind to it. However, one thing that's always bothered me about this sudden shift in characters is the way that Lorraine changes. Why does Lorraine change at all? Why does she go from this alcoholic, sad person to this just happy, everyday person? It never made any sense to me. Perhaps it was because her husband is no longer a wimp anymore, but I honestly feel like it goes deeper than that. I think it's because in this timeline, Lorraine was never traumatized by Biff. But how is this possible? Most people would say, well, if Marty wasn't there, then how would Lorraine have even been in the car for Biff to do that to her? That's a very good point, but what I say to that is there are many possible reasons for Lorraine to have walked out to the car. I mean, after all, her date in the original timeline was none other than the most beta male out there, George McFly. Having him as her date could have easily made her want to go outside and get some fresh air, or hell, even go back to the car to grab a drink or something just to get away from George for a little bit. And in the same time, Biff follows her out and tries to get what he wants. However, without anyone to stop him this time, Biff succeeds in traumatizing Lorraine, causing her to flee back inside to the safety net that is George McFly. Maybe she didn't choose George because she was stuck with him. Maybe she chose him because he's a wimp. He would never overpower Lorraine like that, and probably never want to. George, in her mind, is this safe place that she can go to because she doesn't want to experience anything remotely like the incident with Biff ever again. She wants to be in control, so she chooses George over anyone else because of this. She kisses him, and the rest is history. Now, at this point, this is obviously just speculation. However, let's take a look at Lorraine's character at the beginning of the movie and at the end. In the beginning of the movie, it is very clear that she is unhappy with her current relationship. She is a massive alcoholic and believes that George was a mistake. We know that this is true because of this part right here, where she tells the kids that everyone makes mistakes, and right as she says that, she looks at George.
We all make mistakes in life, children.
Lorraine knows she could have left George at any time, and who wouldn't want to? He doesn't stand up for himself at all, and he allows himself to be walked over all the time, and even does other people's work for them. Why would someone even want to be married to this guy? Most people would have broken it off with such a person, but not Lorraine. Not the person that was traumatized, and not the person who doesn't want a chance that ever happening to her again. In fact, it is this traumatic experience that leads her to her alcoholic tendencies. She stays with George out of fear of other guys that could possibly hurt her the way Biff did. Now, in complete contrast to this, Lorraine in the new timeline is as happy as can be. She's got a wonderful, confident man, and she has no PTSD from what happened with Biff because George saved her. It is because of all this that I believe that Lorraine did in fact get raped in the original timeline of Back to the Future. That was the theory, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Let me know what you guys think of my new intro. I had to change it because my old one got copyright struck because of the music I had on it, and I've also just been wanting to make a new one since, for a long time now. Let me know your guys' opinion on it, and if you guys like the video or not. Let me know your guys' opinions in the comments. Do you guys really believe this could have happened in the original timeline or not? Have a great day, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.